Prabhuji, can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So I guess Madhav Gopinath Prabhu is also there on the call. Thank you for joining the Bhagavatam call. I'm sure some more of you will be joining soon. We always have many joining in the first 10 minutes. So I would like to briefly introduce Prabhuji. Prabhuji is also there on the call, I believe.
Prabhuji, Madhav Prabhu will be in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll briefly introduce Prabhuji, if that's okay. Before that, is that okay, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, I did ask for his formal introduction. I lost somewhere, but the little that I know about him, there's a lot to say. Prabhuji is one of the most inspiring devotees that I have personally seen in my life, developing, sacrificing his entire life for the mission of Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhuji has given more than 5,000 lectures, about Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and many other topics from our scriptures. And Prabhuji is himself, a BE honors from BITS Pilani. And Prabhuji is currently working in a very prestigious position also, even though he's doing so many services, he's a global delivery director heading more than, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of people in a big multinational company. And Prabhuji is also pursuing a PhD in Sanskrit. And he's also digitalizing all the commentaries. This is a humongous project called Purana Tilakam. Prabhuji's personal, desire is to have this all digitalized and easily available for ages and ages to come, whenever they want to search anything. And this project is named as Purana Tilakam. And Prabhuji and his very good wife Tulasi Mataji are like mother and father for the whole community that they've developed in Singapore Township. And I'm very excited, but can't stop myself to speak about Nanda Gokulam also, which is coming up, a huge prestigious project, very close to Yadirgutta. And the way, people start projects, but the way he has aligned the villages around it, the way he is bringing the true spirit of Krishna consciousness by bringing all the devotees together and his temple in between, 9 forests in it. It's like a fairy tale for somebody like me, that something like that is happening. And Prabhuji is spearheading it selflessly, that it happens soon and it happens and it benefits a lot of families. It's a very balanced outreach that Prabhuji has adopted in that, where devotees from all facts of life, whether they are lived a modern life or a village life or whatever kind of life, can all adapt in that environment. That's the goal also. So I mean, I don't think I want to keep him waiting anymore, and we all can listen from him. So let us welcome Madhav Gopinath Prabhu, 3 loud and enthusiastic Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Thank you all for joining, and thank you Madhav Gopinath Prabhu for accepting in such a short notice. Thank you. We can't hear you; still on mute, Prabhuji.
Can you hear me now, Prabhu?
Yes, we can.
Prabhu, you please sing for a few minutes, Jai Radha Madhava.
Oh, you want me to sing? Okay.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, I'm not dressed in a Vaishnav clothes, so is it still okay? Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Giribaradhari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Giribaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tirabanachari. Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tirabanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tirabanachari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana yamunatiravanachari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radhe, Jaya Radha Gopi Vallabha Radha Vallabha Radhe, Jaya Radha Vrindavan Chandra Radha Vrindavan Chandra Radhe, Jaya Jagannatha Jagannatha, Baladeva Jaya Subhadra, Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatme, Nitai Gorango, Nitai Gorango, Nitai Gorango, Gaura Hari, Jaya Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Gaura Hari, Patita Pavana, Patita Pavana, Patita Pavana, Gaura Hari, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Jai Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Gurudev, Jai Jai Gurudev, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Shri Radha Madan Mohan Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Nittai Gauranga Ki Jai, Shri Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Guru Parampara सांप्रदाय की जय, श्री भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, माधव गोपीनाथ प्रभु की जय, हरि बोल,
Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण. Yes, Prabhu.
So can I start?
Yes, Prabhu.
I hope everybody is able to see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, thank you. Today, we are going to speak about Gunavataras from Bhagavatam. First of all, thank you very much, Leelan Prabhu, for inviting me. This is always nice to associate with you and your team members. They're all wonderful devotees, and Radhesham Prabhu has great respect and appreciation for all of you. And I'm very happy to associate with all of you today on this Ekadasi. So yesterday, Leelan Prabhu and I briefly spoke. I was checking that today some other devotee, from Charlotte, he was supposed to speak on Shiva Tattva. So I came as a substitute teacher. So I want to continue the same topic, but also along with that, Vishnu Tattva and also Brahma. Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, generally we call Trimurtulu, the Trinity. The Gunavataras from Bhagavatam, there are few verses in Bhagavatam. So we will take a verse for this class, second canto, 7th chapter and 39th verse. 2:7:39. So it's here, verse translation, and also the purport is here. Sarge tapoham rishayo navaye prajesha stane tadharma makamanva maravanisha ante twadharma haramanyu vasasuradhya maya vibhutaya ima purushakti bhajaha. One more time. Sarge tapoham rishayo navaye prajesha stane tadharma makamanva maravanisha ante twadharma haramanyu vasasuradhya maya vibhutaya ima purushakti bhajaha. Sarge, in the beginning of creation, tapaha, penance, aham, myself, rishayaha, sages, nava, 9, e prajesha, those who generate, standing in the middle while maintaining the creation. Atha, certainly, dharma, religion, Makha, Lord Vishnu, Manu, the father of mankind, Amara, the demigods deputed to control the affairs of maintenance, Avanishaha, and the kings of different planets, Ante, at the end, too, but Adharma, irreligion, Hara, Lord Shiva, Manyuvasha, subjected to anger, Asuradhyaha, atheists, the enemies of the devotees, Maya, energy, Vibhutayaha, powerful representatives, Ima, all of them, Purushakti Bhajaha, of the Supreme Powerful Lord. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. At the beginning of creation, there are penance, myself, Brahma, and the Prajapatis, the great sages who generate. Then, during the maintenance of the creation, there are Lord Vishnu, the demigods, Devatas, with controlling powers, and the kings of different planets. But at the end, there is irreligion, and then Lord Shiva, and the atheists full of anger, etc. All of them are different representative manifestations of the energy of the Supreme Power, the Lord. Purport. The material world is created by the energy of the Lord, which is manifested in the beginning of the creation by the penance of Brahmaji, the first living being in the creation. And then there are the 9 Prajapatis known as great sages. In the stage when the creation is maintained, there are devotional service to Lord Vishnu or factual religion, the different demigods and the kings of different planets who maintain the world. At last, when the creation is preparing to wind up, there is first the principle of irreligion, then Lord Shiva along with the atheists full of anger. But all of them are but different manifestations of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahadeva, Shiva, are different incarnations of the different modes of material nature. Vishnu is the Lord of mode of goodness, Brahma is the Lord of the mode of passion, and Shiva is the Lord of the mode of ignorance. Ultimately, the material creation is but a temporary manifestation meant to give the chance of liberation to the conditioned souls who are entrapped in the material world, and one who develops the mode of goodness under the protection of Lord Vishnu has the greatest chance of being liberated by following the Vaishnava principles and thus being promoted to the kingdom of God. No more to return to this miserable material world. Mama Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sarge tapoham rishaye navaye prajesha stane tadharma makaman vamara amaravanisha ante twadharma haramanyu vasasuradhya maya vibhutaya ima purushakti bhajaham. This verse is told by Lord Brahma to Narada Muni. When Narada Muni is describing, when Narada Muni questioned Brahma about the whole creation, in reply to him, Brahma was answering, and this particular verse comes along with all the avatars and vibhutis of the Lord. So in short, in this verse, he's talking about all the 3 Gunavataras. He himself, Brahma, as the Lord of mode of passion for creation, and Lord Shiva as the Lord of mode of ignorance for destruction, and Lord Vishnu as the Lord of mode of goodness for maintaining. So the Devatas, the great Rajarshis, Manus, Amaras means Devatas, Avanisha means the great kings. They all come during the period of maintenance to assist Lord Vishnu as representatives or vibhutis of the Lord. And the Prajeshas, the Navaye Prajesha, the 9 great sages, Srila Prabhupada translated, the 10 sons of Brahma, other than the first 4 brahmachari sons, he had 10 sons. One of them is Narada Muni. He did not get married again. So the remaining 9 are the Prajapatis, Navaye Prajesha. So they are helping Brahma in creation. And then we have Lord Shiva. He comes during the destruction. And destruction, he has his own group, who can assist Lord Shiva. Everything will be destroyed when adharma is prevalent. So these atheists and other people, they come, atheists full of anger, and other associates of Lord Shiva will take place for destruction of the universe at the end of Brahma's day and at the end of Brahma's life as well. So today we are going to speak about all these 3 Gunavataras. We have many different avatars. We had Leela Avataras, we have Yuga Avataras, we have Shakta Vesha Avataras, we have Gunavataras, and also Manvantara Avataras, like this. But particularly this Trinity, Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahma. So we are going to talk about these 3 Gunavataras from the slokas of Bhagavatam only. Vishvodbhava sthiti layeshu vibhajyamanair maya gunair aniyugam vigruhita deha te brahma vishnu girisha pranatosmyaham vaha. Before starting, we are offering obeisances to Brahma, Vishnu, and Girisha, means Lord Shiva. O Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva, you have divided yourself into 3 bodies by accepting the 3 modes of material nature, as you do in every millennium for the creation, maintenance, and dissolution of the cosmic manifestation. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all of you. Atri Muni addressed this to the 3 Murtis. Atri Muni did not know who the Supreme Lord was, but he was praying. So his prayers, they were addressed not to any particular Devata and even the Supreme Lord. So he himself had no clarity. He was praying that he did not have clarity who Supreme Lord is, but he wanted a son. So Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahma, all 3 of them came to bless. And exactly they were asking me, whom did you call? Then he said, all 3 of you give me a son. So like that, they had, he had sons, one is Dattatreya and Durvasa and so on. So one with Vishnu Amsa, one with Brahma, one with Lord Shiva. So Dattatreya was born like that. Another shloka from Srimad Bhagavatam. Nama parasmai purushaya bhuyase sadudbhavasthana nirodha leelaya grihita shakti tritayaya dehinam antarbhavayanu upalakshavartmani. Let me offer my respectful obeisance unto Supreme Personality of Godhead, who, for the creation of the material world, accepts the 3 modes of nature. He is the complete whole, residing within the body of everyone, and his ways are inconceivable. Many times we hear this statement, Lord actually entered, into the material world, and he is in touch with the modes. how to understand this? One side we say that Lord Vishnu is Nirguna. He has nothing to do with the material modes. But at the same time, like, how he is dealing with the modes. So Acharya says, like, yoga, the word yoga means the three meanings for that. One is contact, proximity, and supervision. Contact, proximity, and supervision. Contact is direct contact. Proximity is staying nearby. And supervision is being aloof from it, but at the same time supervising. That's exactly Lord Vishnu does. He maintains the material nature, or the material nature is working under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Mayadhyakshena prakrite suyate sacharacharam hetunanena kaunteya jagat viparivartate. This material world is working, material world with the three modes is working under the direction of Vishnu. That is why, like, he is called sometimes, like, he's dealing with the gunas. He's dealing means not interacting, but he is directing or supervising the material nature. So in that sense, the Lord, by supervising, Lord Vishnu associates with the mode of goodness. He is in charge of the mode of goodness. So it does not mean that Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu is in the mode of goodness, and Lord Shiva, because he is the head of mode of ignorance, he's in mode of ignorance. It's not like that. He is like the jailer. See, jailer is also in jail, like, to take care of the prisoners. Just like that, Lord Shiva is in charge of mode of ignorance. Lord Brahma is in charge of mode of passion. Does not mean they are in passion and ignorance. Yeah, they are also above the modes of material nature, simply because they are great devotees. Brahma is the head of our parampara, a great devotee of the Lord, and Mahajana. Lord Shiva is also Mahajana, and he is Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. So he's a great devotee of the Lord. So both of them, naturally, they will be above the modes of material nature, but they are head of the department for passion, head of the department for ignorance, respectively. And Lord Vishnu is the head of the department for mode of goodness, but they themselves are in not modes. Then how they are dealing? Lord Shiva by contact, Lord Brahma by contact, Lord Shiva by proximity, Lord Vishnu by supervision are dealing with the three modes. Now, what these Gunavataras do, Bhagavatam 11th canto explains. Adha vabhut chatadhriti rajasasya sarge Vishnu stitau kratupatir dijadharma setuhu Rudropyayaya tamasa purushassa adhya ityudbhavasthitilaya satatam prajashu. In the beginning, the original Supreme Personality manifested the form of Brahma to the material mode of passion in order to create the universe. This universe. The Lord manifested his form as Vishnu, the Lord of sacrifice and protector of the twice-born Brahmanas and their religious duties to maintain the universe. And when the universe is annihilated, the same Supreme Lord employs the material mode of ignorance and manifests the form of Rudra. The created living beings are thus always subjected to the forces of creation, maintenance, and destruction. So in short, Lord creates Brahma, who actually, being the in charge of mode of passion, creates the universe. And Lord Vishnu, he is himself the maintainer of the universe. And Lord Shiva is deputed to annihilate the universe when the time comes. But all three of them are the incarnations of the Lord, so they are Gunavataras. Sometimes when there is no qualified person, Lord himself becomes Brahma. And it is also told elsewhere. Yesterday I was reading in a commentary of Vishnu Shankar Thakur that sometimes Lord Shiva also can become Brahma, like, under the order of the Supreme Lord. So in Lord Vishnu maintains, Shiva destroys, while Brahma creates. That is their job. So who is the source of the Gunavataras? Lord Vishnu in this particular form for the Gunavatara. and also Brahma and Shiva. They're all coming from the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Sattvam Rajastama iti prakrite gunastaya yukta parapurusha eka ihasya dhatte stityadhade harivirinchi hareti sanya shreyamsi tatra kalusatva tanonunam sihu. The transcendental personality of Godhead is indirectly associated with the three modes of material nature, namely passion, goodness, and ignorance. See, he is associated but indirectly. Only Brahma has a little bit direct contact. But for Shiva, it is proximity, and for Vishnu, it is supervision. That's why he is indirectly associated. And just for the material world's creation, maintenance, and destruction, he accepts the three qualitative forms of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Of these three, all human beings can derive ultimate benefit from Vishnu, the form of quality of goodness. And Bhagavatam also explains the reasons later. So we'll not get there. But in short, like Krishna's Swamsha, there are many Swamshas. From that, Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, Karanodakashaya Vishnu, and Kshirodakashaya Vishnu. There are three Vishnus come to take care of the material world. Karanodakashaya Vishnu is like Paramatma for the entire creation. Garbhodakashaya Vishnu is Paramatma for every Brahmanda. And Kshirodakashaya Vishnu is Paramatma in every living entity. So from Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, the Gunavataras come is what Laghu Bhagavatamrita says. So you have Brahma and Kshirodakashaya Vishnu and Shiva. Kshirodakashaya Vishnu is same as the Gunavatara. Of these three, he is the Gunavatara. So first, let's talk briefly about who is Brahma, who can become Brahma, why is Brahma an avatara, how is Brahma born, and how many years Brahma meditated, and how did Brahma get his powers, what are his duties, and what creation he does, and what is the lifetime of Brahma and the current age of Brahma. Who is Brahma? He is the creator, engineer of the universe, self-born, first spiritual master, forefather of all living entities, personification of Vedas, original poet, origin of Parampara, father of religiousness, most exalted personality, Mahajana. These are all the Srila Prabhupada's words from various purports of Bhagavatam. And who can become Brahma? It is told in Laghu Bhagavatamrita and also quoted in the purport somewhere in Bhagavatam 4th canto that Bhavet kvachin mahakalpe brahma jivyo upasanai kvachin atra mahavishnur brahmatvam pratipadyate. Sometimes a jiva becomes Brahma in a mahakalpa by intense worship. Sometimes Garbhodakashaya becomes Brahma in that planet. So a jiva, it's also told that a person who executes his varnashrama duties properly for 100 births, he becomes qualified to occupy the post of Brahma. And not everybody qualified becomes Brahma. By the order of the Lord, sometimes a jiva becomes Brahma, or if there is no qualified person, Garbhodakashaya himself becomes Brahma in that planet. This is what is told in Laghu Bhagavatamrita. Why is Brahma called an avatara? Ishatvapekshaya tasya shastre proktavatarata samastheneva bhagavat sannikarshotvayochyate asyavatarata kaschit aveshatvena kaschana. Brahma is called an avatara in the scriptures because the Lord himself takes the role of Brahma sometimes. Other acharyas explain that Brahma is called an avatara because of the complete merging of the Lord's power with Brahma so that he can create the universe. The creative potency is merged in Brahma. Other acharyas explain that Brahma is avatara because he is an avesha avatara, the potency of the Lord. That's why. Sometimes Lord himself is Brahma, and sometimes Lord invests in jiva his power. That is why we call Brahma as an avatara. Yeah. How is Brahma born? Like this. Tasya nabhera bhutpadmam sahasrakoru didhiti sarva jiva nikayauko yatra swayam abhut swarat. From the navel of the Garbhodakashaya Vishnu sprouts a lotus flower, like it's it's effulgent like 1,000 blazing suns. This is the reservoir of all the conditioned souls. And the first living entity, Brahma, he came out of that lotus flower, he is like that born of the Supreme Lord. So this is Brahma. This entire stem you see various planets. Brahma Loka is the topmost Loka. That is where Brahma is there. How many years Brahma? Then he says that Brahma immediately meditated. There's a confusion here. So that's why to sort out this confusion, I've put this table. So there are many years Brahma meditated. Somewhere it is said Brahma meditated 1,000 years. If you see in the 2nd canto, 9th chapter, like 8th verse, somewhere it is said Brahma meditated 100 years. Somewhere else it showed 100, somewhere he meditated 100 years. So some devotees take this 100 years to be like Brahma's years. Then if whole life is meditating and dying, then when did he do the creation? So we have to see the purports of the acharyas very carefully. Here when they meant 100 years, this is human years. And here 100 years, 1,000 years, and like his lifetime is 100 years, then how did he meditate 1,000 years? Means this Devata years, celestial years. Here 100 years, celestial years. These are the explanation I can share with you. So when Brahma meditated 100 years in one context means 100 years as per the human calculation. Yeah. So Jiva Goswami's translation, it is there. So then the Gayatri mantra is given to Brahma, like, by Supreme Lord. Yeah. And Brahma became empowered and then he started doing his duties. So he gets his powers derived from the Supreme Lord. Like he's like Jiva, like all of us most of the time, but he derives his powers from the Supreme Lord because Supreme Lord's creative potency is invested in Brahma. Bhasman yathasma sakaleshu nijeshu tejaha swayam kriyat prakatayadyapi tadvadatra brahmaya yesha jagadanda vidhana karta govindamadi purusham tamam bhajam. Brahma himself is telling about himself in Brahma Samhita that I am subjective portion. Like, I receive my power for the regulation of the mundane world, just like, as sun manifests some portion of his own light in the effulgent gems, like Surya Kanta. So Krishna is like sun, I am like that gem. So I reflect his energy. He himself is admitting the fact. So what Brahma does? Brahma does secondary creation, primary creator, the Supreme Lord. Sometimes how to understand Brahma is a creator, the Lord is creator. It's like making chapatis. Lord makes the dough, Brahma makes the chapatis and puris. Brahma is like a tailor. Lord is like the one who produces cotton. So Lord in one sense like the farmer, and Brahma is like the weaver or tailor. Yeah. And what else Brahma does? He manages universe affairs. Sometimes there are disputes. He will resolve those disputes. In charge of mode of passion. That means primarily like doing all kinds of secondary creations. And then like, he gives transcendental knowledge to his children, the 4 Kumaras, the 10 Prajapatis, and so on. And like his go-to person for all the devatas, for any problem they get, whenever they're facing problem with some demons or something else, somebody doing tapasya and everything choked in the world, then like he's like a temple president of the devatas. He's an immediate go-to person. So he represents all the demigods, devatas while approaching Lord Vishnu. What creation Brahma does? Like, like this is secondary creation explained in detail in Bhagavatam, like 5 features of ignorance, and then 4 Kumaras, then Rudra is born from Brahma, we'll discuss when we come to Shiva, and then there are like Prajapatis, the 10 sons, and there's Dharma and Adharma, like and the factors instigating Adharma. Then also like he had created Kardama Muni, like even all the arts and like other things have come, Brahma only created, and 4 legs of Dharma, 4 ashramas, and everything art, science, and like meters, like chandas basically, and all kinds of sounds, vowels and consonants, and Swayambhu, Manu and Satarupa, they all come from Brahma. Also Vedas are like eternal, but Vedas are manifested through Brahma in this world because Supreme Lord gives Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. Bhagavatam says the Vedic knowledge is given to him, so he manifests. Also the Puranas and the Upavedas, these are all like manifesting from Brahma. What is the lifetime of Brahma? Sahasra Yuga Pariyante Uttayedam Sistrukshataha Marichi Mishra Rishayaha Pranepyo Hamcha Jagnire. So the 1,000 cycles of Mahayuga is one day of Brahma. 1,000 cycles of Mahayuga is one night of Brahma. Like that, Brahma has 100 years, lifetime. And then every night he gets, after every night he gets up, then again he does his creation. Yeah. And creation is wind up, partial destruction happens. At the upper planets are there as is, only Devaloka and below is destroyed at the end of Brahma's night. When Brahma came again, he creates. That's why Bhagavad Gita says that, some people see, Brahma's day and night. Teho Ratra. They see the Ahoratras of Brahma, the day and night of Teho Ratra Vidojana. See, we see day and night in this planet because we know when sun leaves, disappears from our sight, it is night, and then when he appears, it's morning. But who will see Brahma's day and night is those people who are living in Brahmaloka and and the nearby lokas. So they see. What is the current age of Brahma? It's told in Bhagavatam, Yadartham Ayushas Tasya Parardham Abhidhiyate Purva Parardho Prakranto Hyaparodhya Pravartante. Brahma's lifetime is called two parts, Parartha and Parartha. It's also called Para or Viparartha. So it's called Viparardham. So two Parardhas. The first half of the duration of Brahma's life is over. His 50 years right now is over. He is in the 51st year, the current Brahma at this point of time. That's why in pujas and other things also we say we say that this is before we say Svetahara Kalpe Vaivasvata Manvantara and all, we say that this Chaturmukha Brahma, and then he completed 50 years. He's in the 51st year. And then in that also it is the first day, Shvetahara Kalpa. In that also it's a Vaivasvata Manvantara, and so on. We will tell, the Sankalpa in the pujas. Next is Lord Shiva. So who is Lord Shiva? And many times we hear Sadashiva, Shiva and Rudra. Are they same or different? Can a Jiva become Shiva? And how is Rudra born? And how many Rudras are there? What is the position of Lord Shiva? Is Lord Shiva in Tamoguna? So there are some other questions we get. Who is Lord Shiva? He's as good as Vishnu, we hear. He's the greatest Vaishnava, in charge of mode of ignorance, police officer, a Mahajana, and then he's the destructive principle, and he's Parvati Pati, the husband of Mother Parvati. Bhagavatam glorifies Lord Shiva. Nimnaganam yadha Ganga, Devanam achyuto yadha, Vaishnavanam yadha Shambhu, Purananam idam tada. Lord Shambhu is the greatest of all Vaishnavas, and Srimad Bhagavatam is the greatest of all Puranas. Just like Ganga is the greatest of all rivers, and the Supreme Lord, Achyuta Krishna, is supreme among all the Devatas. So we hear Sadashiva, Shiva and Rudra. Are they the same? Actually, they are not. Yes and no, both. Sadashiva, who has nothing to do with the material world, he is called Sadashiva or Adishiva. He is Vishnu Tattva. He is as good as Vishnu himself. He lives in spiritual world. He did not even deal, even by proximity, to the material world. He has nothing to do with. He eternally exists in the Vaikuntha Lokas. He has nothing to do with material world. That is Sadashiva. Generally, whoever we call Shiva and Shambhu, he actually stays in the material world, just above the material realm, of course, because Brahma is seeing Devi Mahesha Haridama Suteshu Teshu. We've seen the picture of Brahma, right? He's in the topmost Brahma Loka. From there, he's seeing up what is there. He's seeing Devi Dham, and he's seeing Mahesha Dham and Haridam. Devi Mahesha Haridama Suteshu Teshu. He says that. What is the Shiva? He is neither Vishnu Tattva nor Jiva Tattva. He is separate Tattva. That's why he is Shiva Tattva. His source is Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Okay. He lives in Kailasha and also heavenly Kailasha and heavenly planets in Himalayas. He is the husband of Mother Parvati. He is the one who is described in Brahma Samhita. And when we say Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu, he is talking about him. He is Gunavatara, he is Mahajana, and he is in charge of mode of ignorance. He is the one who entertains sometimes demons like Vrukasura. We have seen, and he exists in Kailasa for Brahma's lifetime. Like, so this Shiva is just like in one Brahmanda, we have one Brahma. This Shiva is manifested for affairs in this Brahmanda. Okay. And there is Rudra. Like, Rudra, sometimes Shiva Tattva we can say, sometimes Shiva Tattva, because sometimes the same Shiva expands into Rudra, and sometimes a Jiva is invested to become like, Shiva, Rudra, sorry. So I'll give you the proof further. Sometimes Jiva can become Rudra. He is born of Brahma's Brukuti, we see in Bhagavatam. So Rudra has one abode in the layer of Ahankara. Bhagavatam explains. He has 11 forms. That's why we say Ekadasa Rudras. Like, takes care of destruction at the end of Brahma's day and life. Yeah. So basically this Shiva orders this Rudra, or sometimes he himself expands into Rudra to take care of the destruction. So he exists in this Brahmanda for entire Brahma's lifetime. So this Rudras has 11 forms. Yeah. So in short, Sadashiva is Vishnu Tattva. Shiva is Shiva Tattva. Rudra is either Shiva Tattva or Jiva Tattva, depends on that particular Brahmanda or that particular, in that particular Brahmanda, sometimes like, Shiva himself can become Rudra, and sometimes a Jiva is invested with the power of destruction. Can a Jiva become Shiva? Yes, sometimes. Shiva means Rudra. Yeah. He is not going to become the husband of Parvati. He is like, the Rudra. Vachit Jiva Visheshatvam Arasyoktam Vidheriva Tattu Sheshavat Evastam Tad Amshatvena Kirtanat. Sometimes a special Jiva. This is Laghu Bhagavatamrita proof. And also the comment, this is written by Rupa Goswami and also commented upon by Baldev Vidyabhushan. Sometimes a special Jiva takes the role of Shiva in a manner like Brahma. Just like sometimes a special Jiva becomes Brahma, sometimes special Jiva becomes Shiva. Shiva should be considered like Sesha with two forms, since Shiva is also glorified as Amsha of Vishnu. Just like Sesha, there is a spiritual world, there is Sesha, like Ananta, and here there is a Sesha, like in the material world. So both, he had two forms, like just like that. Since Shiva is also glorified as an Amsha, Vishnu is like, Shiva is like Sesha, it is told. Yeah. And also sometimes a Jiva can become Rudra. See, Sadashiva, Shiva and Rudra all are called sometimes Shiva. Yeah. So when we mean someone can become Jiva, can become Shiva, we mean he becomes like the Rudra. How is Rudra born from Brahma's Brukuti? Diya nigrihyamanopi bruvor madhyat prajapate Sajjojayata tanmanyuhu kumaro nilalohitaha. Although he tried to curb his anger, it came out from between his eyebrows, and a child mixed blue and red was immediately generated. Sometimes it is told Rudra is generated from the forehead of Brahma and sometimes born from the forehead of Vishnu. Like, Kalagni Rudra appears from the Sankarsana at the end of Kalpa. There are details given. But it is told Rudra came from the Brukuti, anger of Brahma. So sometimes the question is Brahma superior or Shiva superior? Then which Brahma we are talking about, which Shiva we are talking about? We need to know. In general, Brahma is Jiva. In general, Shiva is he is Avesha. He is the avatara of the Supreme Lord. He is the avatara of the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So Shiva is superior. So, but you see, Shiva respecting bowing down to Brahma, how to understand? Bhagavatam says that just like Vamana is bowing down to Kashyapa, Lord Shiva is bowing down to Brahma. Yeah, when we say Shiva, either Sadashiva or Shiva, they are definitely superior to Brahma. Rudra is the one who is born from Brahma. So Rudra is like the son of Brahma. So sometimes that Rudra is, as we told, is Shiva himself. So in that sense, Shiva is created from Brahma, but Shiva is eternal, he is in Shiva Tattva. Brahma is Jiva. A Jiva cannot create a Shiva, technically. How many Rudras? It is told Bhagavatam, there are 11 Rudras. Raivata, Aja, Bhava, Bhima, Vama, Ugra, Vrushakapi, Ajaikapa, Abhibhratna, Vahurupa and Maha. So these are all the 11 Rudras. So the Rudra's duty, Tamo Matram Upadhaya, Pratisamruddha Vikramaha, Kale Nanugata Shesha, Aste Tushnim Dinatyaye. So at the end of the day, they destruct everything. That is what is told about Rudra. So what is the position of Lord Shiva? Yeah, Shiva, this verse beautifully summarizes that Shiva is all three Shivas. Shivaha, just follow the Sanskrit, just park translation for a second. Shivaha, Shakti Yutaha. Shakti is Parvati. Shiva is husband of Parvati. He is Shakti Yutaha. Shivaha, Shashvat. Shiva is the eternal, primeval Supreme Lord, Adi Shiva. Shivaha, Guna Samvritaha. Shiva is covered by the modes. That is the Rudra. So Shivaha, Trilingaha. Shiva has three forms. Sadashiva, Shiva, and Rudra. Shivaha, Shakti Yuktaha, Shashvat, Trilingo, Guna Samvritaha. So like this, Shiva has three different forms. Sadashiva, Shiva, and Rudra. All are called Shiva. And there are additional details given about Vaikarikas Taijasascha Tamasaschetyaham Tritha. He embodies the threefold principle of Ahankara in goodness, passion, and ignorance. This is actually talking about the Shiva who is Guna Samvritaha. It is not talking about Shiva who is Shakti Yutaha. The last two lines are not talking about definitely Sadashiva. We told Sadashiva has nothing to do with material world. When nothing to do with material world, what to speak of material Ahankara. Vishnu can become Shiva, but not otherwise. Shiva cannot become Vishnu. Shiva can become Brahma. Shiva cannot become Vishnu. How that is understand? See, we'll take curd, we'll take milk. From milk we can make curd. Brahma Samhita is saying. See, what is the difference between milk and curd? Is there a difference? No difference. Only one drop last night we have put. Next morning, the milk has become curd. Now you see both the things. What is the difference? There is a difference. Yes, there is a difference. Small difference. We put one drop. Is there no difference? There is no difference. There is a milk. That milk can become curd, but curd cannot become milk. Similarly, Vishnu can become Shiva, but Shiva cannot become Vishnu. Kshiram yadha dharivikara vishesha yogat sanjayate nahi tata pudhagasti heto yashyambhutam apitada samupaiti karyat govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Just as milk is transformed into curd by the action of acids, but at the effect, curd is neither same nor different from its cause, milk. So I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom the state of Shambhu is a transformation for the performance of the work of destruction. Yes, Shambhutam apitadha samupaiti karyat. Yeah. Shiva Tattva is different from Jiva Tattva and Vishnu Tattva. Thus, Lord Shiva's position is between that of the living entity and that of the Supreme Lord. In other words, Lord Shiva is neither the Supreme Personality of Godhead nor a living entity. He is the form through which the Supreme Lord works to beget living entities within this material world. As yogurt is prepared when milk is mixed with a culture, the form of Lord Shiva expands when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is in touch with the material nature. The impregnation of material nature by the Father Lord Shiva is wonderful because at one time, innumerable living entities are conceived. So Shiva is the, what you can say, Lord glances, right? Supreme Lord glances. That glance is Lord Shiva. Because Supreme Lord, we told, there's no direct contact of the Supreme Lord with Prakriti. Because Prakriti is goodness, passion, and ignorance. So the Lord supervises, or the Lord just glances. The Lord just wills. But the glance, the interaction is taking place between Shiva and material nature. That's when, everything happens. So in that sense, Shiva is the actual, the impregnation of material nature by Father Lord Shiva is wonderful because all living entities who are at the end of day of Brahma, or at the end of life of Brahma, who have become dormant in the body of Mahavishnu, like in the body of Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, through his glands, like who is Shambhu, like that Shambhu interacts with material nature, Prakriti. So these living entities are again brought back to Prakriti. But Shiva Tattva is different from Jiva Tattva and Vishnu Tattva, because Vishnu has no interaction with Prakriti, direct interaction, but Shiva interacts and impregnates the Jivas into Prakriti. Sadashiva is directly Narayana, that is told here. Sadashivakya tanmurtirs tamogandha vivarjita sarvakarana bhuta sau anga bhuta swayam prabhu vayapyadishu saiveyam shivaloke pradarshita. The form called Sadashiva is devoid of any trace of tamas, is directly Narayana, the Vilasa and Swamsha of Swayamrupa Krishna, and the cause of all causes. That form is described as dwelling on Shivaloka, one of the Vaikunthas. It is told in the Vayu Purana and other scriptures. This is described. What is described in Bhagavatam Kailasa is the Kailasa in the material world. Shiva in Tamoguna, we discussed, he is the head of Tamoguna, but he is not Tamoguna, just like his jailer. But he's also in jail, but he's above the entanglement of the jail. So it is ignorance to think that he is also in Tamoguna. Then about Lord Vishnu briefly. Who is Vishnu? What are the duties? And why one should worship Vishnu and his avatars? His Vishnu is what he does exactly. Why is he supreme? Why in some scriptures it is said that Shiva, Brahma are also glorified as supreme. Is Krishna avatar of Vishnu? Is that true? These are some questions we'll have. Who is Lord Vishnu? He who is called Lord Vishnu is Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. He is the Vilasa form of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu and praised by the sages as Narayana, Virat, and Antaryami. So when we say the universal form or the Antaryami or Hiranyagarbha in the Brahmanda, or in general Narayana who is lying on the waters, that is on Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. In general, Vishnu means Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. Yeah. And what are the duties? He is in charge of mode of goodness, master and maintainer of the universe, witness of all living entities, Upadrishta, Anumanta, Chabhakta, Bhokta, Maheshwara. Bhagavad Gita says protection of devotees, punishing the weak and establishing religious principles and dealing with escalations. Whenever Brahma, the temple president, takes, like Vishnu is like the GBC, he has to resolve the problem. So he gets into the solving the problem on the request of Brahma. Why one should worship Vishnu and his avatars? It is told that only Vishnu can give liberation. Others cannot give. Mumukshavo gora rupan hitva bhutapati natha narayana kalashanta bhajanti hi anasuyavaha. Those who are serious about liberation, they worship only Vishnu and his plenary portions. Yeah. Also it is told in the Padma Purana that Harideva Sadharadhyaha Sarva Deveshwareshwaraha Itare Brahmarudraya Naivagneya Kadachana. Vishnu, the Lord of all lords of Devatas, should always be worshipped, but one should never disrespect Brahma, Rudra, and others. We should not disrespect them, but worship should be done only for Vishnu, because he alone can give liberation. Mukum dadati iti mukundaha. So one who gives mukum or moksha is Vishnu. Is Vishnu Gunavatara in the material? Is Vishnu as Gunavatara in material modes? Yeah. He is beyond the gunas. Harirhi nirguna sakshat purusha prakrite paraha. He is parapurushaha. He is beyond prakriti. It is the purusha, it is not purusha prakritasto hi bhunte prakritijan gunan. That purusha is the jiva, but he is purusha paraha, prakrite paraha. He is nirguna sakshat. Is nothing to do with the gunas. Sa sarvadrik upadrishta tam bhajan nirguno bhave. Lord Hari, however, has no connection with the material modes, direct connection, but he supervises. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the all-seeing eternal witness who is transcendental to material nature. One who worships him becomes similarly free from the material modes. So is Vishnu the Supreme? Yes. That is why Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva also worships Lord Vishnu. So very nicely, like no, Sukadeva Goswami says, who is the Supreme Lord? He says one pastime, and he's telling who is the Supreme Lord. See, some say all three Supreme Lord. He is telling, see, from Lord Vishnu's lotus feet, Ganga is coming. Okay. And taking that Ganga, like no, taking that Ganga, Brahma is taking that Charnamrita in his commander, taking Prasad. And Lord Shiva is putting that Ganga on his head. Then who is Bhagavan? He's asking. Because Vishnu is Bhagavan, Brahma is taking his Charanamrita. Because Vishnu is Bhagavan, Lord Shiva is putting his Charanamrita on his head. Then who is Bhagavan? He is telling, Athapi yat padha nakava sustam jagat virincho pahrutarhanambaha sesham punatyanya tamo mukundat o nama loke bhagavat padardaha. O nama loke bhagavat padardaha. Whom should we call as Bhagavat Padartha? The material Bhagavan. Who should be Bhagavan? Who can be worthy of the name of Bhagavan but the personality of God and Vishnu? Brahmaji collected the water emanating from the nails of his feet in order to award it to Lord Shiva as a worshipable welcome. This very water, the Ganga water, Charanamrita, is purifying the whole universe, including Lord Shiva. It's an offense to consider that Brahma and Shiva on equal level with Lord Vishnu. So we should not do that. This is what is told in Padma Purana. Every day we chant to consider the names of qualities of Lord Shiva or Brahma to be on an equal level with the holy names and qualities of Lord Vishnu. It's an offense. Why then in some scriptures it is told Brahma and Shiva are also glorified as supreme? So that is only to bewilder living entities. Puranas are also categorized in those meant for mode of goodness, meant for mode of passion, meant for mode of ignorance. Sometimes Puranas meant for mode of people in mode of passion and ignorance. They talk about other demigods as supreme, but that's not the right understanding. All scriptures glorify only Lord Vishnu ultimately. Vede Ramayane Chaiva Purane Bharate Tada Adavante Chamadhe Cha Haris Sarvatra Gete. Supreme Lord is glorified everywhere in Vedas, Ramayana, Puranas, Bharata, and everywhere in the middle, in the beginning, and at the end. This Krishna is Avatara. This is not correct. Jiva Goswami proves that in Krishna Sandarbha. He says that they quotes this verse also. Just like we have so many candles we light, but still there is original candle. Now all candles are looking like same, just like all Vishnu Tattvas are same, but that original person is Krishna, from whom even the Vishnu comes. Vishnu is like a main door to material world. Anybody who comes to Vishnu, they have to come through Vishnu, and then Brahma is like another door. Vishnu is like a main gate, Brahma is like a main door. So anybody who comes to material world, they have to come through. So Krishna also follows this rule, accepts a father and mother, and those who are born in Brahma's creation is born through them. But neither Brahma is the source, nor Vishnu is the source of Krishna. He is Swayam Bhagavan. Yeah. In conclusion, Sujami Tanniyukto Ham Haro Harati Tadvashaha Vishwam Purusha Rupena Paripati Trishakti Druk. By his will, I create. Lord Shiva destroys. And he himself, in his eternal form as the personality of God, maintains everything. He is the powerful controller of these three energies. He is the boss. Quickly here, a summary of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. A chart, whatever we discussed, everything. So easily able to understand. Yes. And we'll close here. Saesha Atma Vatamadhishwaras Raimayo Dharma Mayastapo Mayaha Tata Velikair Ajashankaradhibir Vitarkya Lingo Bhagavan Prasidatam. He alone is the Supreme Lord. He is worshipped as the Atma by the Jnanis and Yogis. He is to be worshipped by the knowers of the Vedas, the followers of Dharma, and the performers of austerities. May that Supreme Lord Vishnu, whose qualities cannot be known even by those free of deceit, such as Brahma and Shiva, be merciful to me. We'll stop here. If anyone has any questions, 1 or 2 questions we can take, please unmute yourself and ask.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Yes.
Prabhuji, one question. Here we talked about Trimurtis, right?
Correct.
And also there are spiritual consorts for all three murtis like Lakshmi, Parvati, and Saraswati. Can you briefly explain a little bit about like how these consorts are chosen, and you know, what are the roles, why we have to worship all these Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Parvati?
So in the spiritual world also, there is, like, you know, Saraswati. She's called Divya Saraswati. But the Saraswati whom we see here, she is not, like, you know, she is Brahma's consort. Like, you know, at the time we see in Puranas also, like, you know, in one place it says that Saraswati is also wife of Vishnu, but she's given to Brahma. But that's an amsha of Saraswati. Whatever Saraswati we see here in material world, she's not the eternal deity Divya Saraswati. Yeah. And same is the case. Like, you know, the Parvati that we see here, like, you know, or the Sati earlier, she even, like, you know, we know, right, Sati gave up her body and then she's born as Parvati. She's not, she's, like, you know, not the Maya Shakti of the Supreme Lord. She's an amsha, like, you know, like that. And also Lakshmi, but is an eternal consort of the Lord. So every form that Lord takes, every avatara, she simply follows. That's what Vishnu Purana says, Anapayini Lakshmi. She follows Lord Vishnu. And even sometimes you see, like, the Lord comes as, like, you know, sometimes it is told Lord comes as a, like, you know, brahmachari, or Lord comes as a sage or something like that. For example, Narayana Rishi, like, you know, he's a brahmachari, right? Narayana Rishi. So what happens to Lakshmi at that time? She says that she came in the form of Badari trees, Revuchettu. That's why he lives in Badarika ashram. She serves him, like, you know, she stays nearby him in the form of Badarika trees. So like that, Lord, like, you know, Lakshmi, Goddess Lakshmi always follows Lord Vishnu, and she has no material form. All her forms are eternal. But the Divya Saraswati that we see here, she's the Divya Saraswati in Vaikuntha, the Saraswati we have in Brahma's wife are different. Like, no, the Saraswati has also, who is Brahma's consort, is Jiva, like us. Like, but exceptional cases, when Lord comes personally as Brahma, when there is no qualified person is there, that time Saraswati is Lakshmi, she comes. But Jiva, as we told, Shiva, he is neither Jiva or not Vishnu. Similarly, his Shakti is also separate Shakti. That is Apara Prakriti of the Lord. He says, right? Lord, Sabhumira Pavanalo Vaihu Kammano Udhirevacha Hankara Itiyame Bhinna Prakriti Rashtada. So the Shakti is, like, you know, is the material nature. And she is again different from Jiva. She is again different from the Lord. And she is definitely different from Lakshmi, because Lakshmi is Antaranga Shakti, Parvati is Bahiranga Shakti. Hope it's clear.
Yes, Prabhuji. And Prabhuji, you also mentioned about Sadashiva, right? So is there a spiritual consort for Sadashiva also?
Yes, yes, Rama. That Brahma Samhita, it's there in the beginning.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, there are places or people who also talk about Adi Parashakti. And this, everything comes from Adi Parashakti. You know, I know that it's not true, but I just want to understand, you know, how that it comes. You know, a lot of people who give pravachanams and all, they say everything coming from Adi Parashakti. How to
understand? Very good question.
Okay. Yeah.
Suppose a kurta, you have a kurta. So I can ask you a question: who made this kurta? You can say tailor made. Is it true? Yes, it is true. Tailor made. You can say weaver made. Is it true? Yes, weaver made the cloth. From that only this guy made, like, you know, this thing. So weaver also made. That's also correct. You can also say farmer made. Yes, he made the cotton from which everything came. When we say Adi Parashakti, see, actually Adi Aparashakti. When we speak Adi plus Aparashakti as Adi Parashakti, but is Aparashakti. Krishna told in Bhagavad Gita that my Aparashakti is eightfold. Krishna says, right? Umira Pavanalavayu Kammano Budhirevacha Ahankara Itime Bhinna Prakriti Rashtada. She is eightfold, she is my Apara. Then next verse he says, Apareyam, Yam Apara. She is Apara. She is my Apara Shakti. So everything come from her. It is true. She is like the tailor, you can see. And everything came, everything is created by Brahma. That's also true. Just like a weaver, everything he created ultimately by the Lord, because he creates, like, you know, primary creator, just like the farmer. So you can take Brahma is a creator, correct. Durga is creator, correct. Supreme Lord is creator, correct. Just like a kurta, like no, for kurta's creator can be a tailor, weaver, and farmer. So all of them fit the definition of creator. Is it clear?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I have a question, Prabhuji. Can you elaborate a little on the 9 Rudras, Prabhuji? The significance of 9 Rudras.
Yeah, 11 Rudras.
Sorry, 11 Rudras, I'm sorry.
Ekadashi Rudras, that's given in Bhagavatam. So these are from one Rudra, just like we said, there are 12 Adityas, like 11 Rudras. These Rudras, their purpose is primarily to assist Lord Shiva or primary Rudra in destruction. Like, you need an army to destruction. So these are all assisting. So briefly, their details are given in Bhagavatam. Let me read out. Sarupa, the wife of Bhuta, gave birth to 10 million Rudras, of whom the 11 principal Rudras, these names are given. Their associates, the ghosts and goblins, who are very fearful, were born of the other wife of Bhuta. Basically, there are 10 million Rudras, they are for sure Jivas. In that, 11 are principal. These principal Rudras are expanding from Rudra or Shiva of Shiva Tattva. So these are all, their job is at the end of destruction, like at the end of the day of Brahma or at the end of life of Brahma, they assist Lord Shiva and who's assisting Lord Sankarshana to destroy everything. So they will do after the feast is over, the wind-up service, we'll say like that. So they'll do the wind-up service.
Thank you. Prabhuji, another clarification, Prabhuji. Normally, so there are certain, we have heard that, there are certain roles, and these roles are filled by the right capable individuals, including Lord Brahma, right? So can I say that the Rudras are also roles which can be filled by living entities? And Lord Shiva necessarily may not be a role because he's not neither a living entity, neither a Supreme Lord.
Shiva, so yes, they are the roles. But for Devatas, right, it is told that when it is told, what are the different roles are given. For example, Manu is a role. And then Devatas are the roles. They told that Adityas are Devatas in this Manvantara. They are 12. Next time it is told that somewhere else Tushitas are Devatas. It is mentioned in Bhagavatam. So Devatas, Manus, Manuputras, like, and the Saptarshis, these are the roles. But specifical mention of Rudras, like, are not there, like, as a role. But for Devatas, for Rishis, for Manus, for Manuputras, these are roles mentioned. Brahma is a role mentioned. Vyasa is a role mentioned. So the team which accompanies Lord Shiva for destruction, are their roles every time? That's not mentioned. Only in this Manvantara, in this day of Brahma, in this Kalpa, so these Rudras are going to assist Lord Shiva. But next day of Brahma, in next Kalpa, who is doing that job? How many of those are there? Are they called Rudras? That is not explained in Bhagavatam.
Sure, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, a living entity cannot become or cannot take the role of Lord Shiva because Lord Shiva is an expansion himself from Lord Vishnu. That is clear, na, Prabhuji? Whatever a living entity does, he cannot become Lord Shiva.
Correct. But when we say that Lord Jiva becomes Shiva, in the sense that he becomes Rudra. Yeah.
Okay. Understood.
That power is invested in him. So he is also not an incarnation of the Lord. That Rudra is an incarnation of Shiva, who in turn is incarnation of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, just like how milk is transformed into curd, he is transformed like that. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji. And talking about his consort, Prabhuji, Mother Parvati, like you nicely explained that the original Parvati is always there in the spiritual world as Rama. Right?
Correct.
And here the Parvati, the consort of Lord Shiva, is none other than Mother Durga or Bhadra, Subhadra and Bhadra here.
Correct.
So even she is also exactly neither Jiva Tattva nor,
she's separate. She's Shakti Tattva.
She's separate, Shakti Tattva. And nobody can take her role. I mean, she's directly an expansion like that.
Correct.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. It clarifies a lot of things. Thank you. Any other questions, Prabhuji and Mataji?
Can you share those slides, Prabhuji? They were very useful.
Yes, sure, Prabhu. That is our part of the Purana Tilakam project. We made for every avatara, we made these things. So it is going to be live on the Ashara day in this year.
Really? Hari Bol. I was
Yes.
going to ask the next question was when will that be live? The whole tapasya you're doing with scriptures. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Yes.
Prabhuji, can you explain the Lakshmi, Parvati and Shiva in terms to Radharani, Prabhuji, how they are Amshas of Radharani from the spiritual world, how they are the expansions of Radharani?
So there is in Gautamiya Tantra, there is a verse, it is quoted very famous. Devi Krishnamayi Prokta Radhika Paradevata. So ultimately, like, all the Lakshmis, like, they have come from Srimati Radharani. So even Rama comes from Radhika because Radhika is only Paradevata. She is the Antaranga Shakti of the Lord. Just like all incarnations, Krishna is the source. All Lakshmis, Radhika is the source. That's what Gautamiya Tantra says, and that is quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Prabhuji, then how come the gopis are also part of, sometimes gopis are also considered as a shadow of Radharani's, right?
Yeah, there are many different gopis. Like Acharyas say, the principal gopis, they are all expansions of Radharani only. Nobody can become like Lalita, no one can become Vishaka, like that. But there are many gopis. For example, the sages of Dandakaranya, they wanted to serve the Lord. They had conjugal feelings for the Lord. They want to serve the Lord in Madhurya Rasa. So in the next birth, some of them had become gopis, like in Vrindavan, they are called Munichari gopis. Similarly, some denizens of heaven, they have also become gopis. It is also told in the Purana, Agni Purana, that the sons of Agni, they have become gopis. That's also mentioned in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So, yes, all gopis, you cannot say they are the expansions of Radharani. Some jivas do become servants of the gopis, and they are also called as gopis. If you want to differentiate, there are two types of gopis. Those who are expansions of Radharani, direct expansions of Radharani. Those who are the servants of the gopis, they're also called gopis. Sometimes they're called Manjaris, they're called with other names, like different names. But they are the jivas after perfection. They have attained the form of gopis, just like the Munichari gopis, the sages of Dandakaranya.
So my understanding, Prabhuji, then Sakis are eternal associates. I mean, they are fixed to Radharani, is it?
Yes, Sakis are eternal associates.
So Manjaris are the ones, whoever wants to become Manjaris, they can help the Sakis, in fact.
Even Manjaris, some Manjaris also, it is told that they are eternal.
Eternal, yeah.
Some of them, I mean, they're expansions. Even some Manjaris are also expansions. Those who are serving the Sakis. But there are some, like, with their sadhana, they also become Manjaris. And they're also sometimes called as gopis. Technically speaking, gopis and servants of gopis, that's the best way. A jiva can become the servant of the gopis. And like, there are gopis who are expansions of Radhika directly. And normally they are called as gopis.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, one question I have. In the temples that we are going to for Lord Shiva, Prabhuji, that is Sadashiva or Shiva or Rudra, Prabhu? Because you have so many Shiva temples with different names.
Yeah. So, primarily it is Shiva, not Rudra, not Sadashiva. Yeah. In general, it is temple, like who's existing in the Linga form, everywhere it is Shiva. Yeah.
And but do we have any Sadashiva temples also, Prabhuji?
He's not in material world. Even his temple is also not seen like that. Sometimes we see his name, but even when you see the name of Sadashiva, it is still referring to Shiva only. He has nothing to do with the material world. Yeah. He has not performed any pastime. Generally, when they perform a pastime here in the material world, then only you will have a, remembrance of that or something like that, some installation there, something like that happens. He has nothing to do. So you don't see Sadashiva temples.
And,
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, in
the you have this the Aghori sect and all that is there in Varanasi, in UP, and so they worship Rudra Prabhu.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know what is their worship and all.
Prabhuji, what about the concept of Balaram Prabhuji, Revati, and are they expansions of Lakshmi?
Are they? Definitely. Balaram is expansion of the Lord. So Balaram's concerts also ultimately expansion of this thing. But it is told in Bhagavatam purports one place, later it is written by the Acharyas, that the gopis, those who are danced with Balaram, like Balaram also had Rasa dance, no? So those who danced with Balaram are not the same gopis, those who are danced with Krishna. Yeah.
Okay.
But
so my question was, is it from Rama they come or from Lakshmi Devi's direct?
So whether they're coming from Rama or they're coming Lakshmi, ultimately they're all coming from Radhika. Since Balaram is an expansion, direct expansion of Krishna, so Balaram's concerts, everybody should be an expansion of Radhika, not Lakshmi.
Okay, Prabhuji. Yeah, thank you.
Frankly speaking, Prabhuji, without being in the platform of soul, asking sometimes these questions is like trying to understand those, those huge concepts with our little, fragmental mind. It's so difficult to even conceive sometimes. We can't put a logic behind it.
Correct.
Yeah. So Prabhuji,
Krishna is illogical.
Yes, Prabhuji. So please, excuse my audacity to ask one more question here. Is Prabhuji, I often hear about this Nitya Siddhas and Nitya Baddhas, right? And I often, whenever I'm asked this question, I become uncomfortable, not totally comfortable to answer when they say, how come we are Nitya Baddhas? Who decided us to be Nitya Baddhas? And if we are Nitya Baddhas, by the word meaning we are eternally fallen, what is the hope of, what are we trying to achieve by, will we become Nitya Siddhas? Ultimately, will we become Nitya Siddhas through our sadhana bhakti? Or we remain Nitya Baddhas and we keep fluctuating here and there. So, if you can please answer.
There are two types of living entities that is explained in Bhagavad Gita also, Kshara and Akshara. So Ksharas are those who have material body, and Aksharas are those who don't have material body, or those who have spiritual body. That means those who are in the spiritual world, they are Akshara devotees, Jivas, and those who are in the material world with material body, they are Kshara Jivas. So ultimately, Supreme Lord is beyond Akshara and Kshara. That's correct. But why is Jiva called Nityabadha? Means there are two arguments related to Jiva. One is Jiva is from the beginning, Anadi time, he is in the material world. That's one argument. Another argument is Jiva was originally in spiritual world. He has fallen to this material world. This argument. Prabhupada supported both of them. Of course, some acharyas emphasizing that Jiva is in the material world forever. That's why in general we call Nitya Baddha. From the beginning we are material world. But those who do sadhana, those who do yoga, especially bhakti yoga, they become liberated, like they become siddhas, and they perfect and they go to spiritual world. So they are still called sadhana siddhas. So technically a Nitya Baddha can never become Nitya Baddha, even a Nitya Mukta, like Nitya Siddha, he can never become. Nitya Siddhas are those Suris, Nitya Siddhas, they are always there in spiritual world. They are eternal associates of the Lord. Okay, they are the eternal associates of the Lord. This Jiva, like Nitya Baddha, he can never become Nitya Siddha. He can only become Sadhana Siddha and he can be in spiritual world. So that's the difference.
Sure, Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much. I think it's already time.
Oh, Hare Krishna. It's never time for us as long as you are having time, but since you have responsibilities, we'll stop it here. But any other questions, Prabhuji and Mataji, or can we wrap up? Hare Krishna. So, Prabhuji, once again, thank you for coming to our association. Though we are having it virtually, sometime in future we'll look forward for an opportunity to have it physically when the whole cloud of COVID goes away. So, thank you very much, Prabhuji. Let us thank His Grace Madhav Gopinath Prabhu loudly with sincere Hari Hari Bols. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol,
Hari Bol.
Hari
Hari Bol.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for all your services and so many glorious projects that you're inspiring us. We'll try to follow your footsteps and also try to be a little somewhere near to close what you're doing, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji.
Jai Krishna Prabhu.
Hare
Dandavat Pranam.
Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Dandavat Prabhu.
Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta koti Vaishnavandiki jai. So Prabhuji and Mataji, thank you for joining today morning's class. I would like to just say that, devotees like Madhav Gopinath Prabhu are an example of what Vaishnavas are. And in spite of having so many responsibilities and his personal friend, he being a delivery director in Infosys, right? Big responsibility he carries, millions of dollars of account that he manages, but still, he has dedicated his life for serving Srila Prabhupada, he and his good wife. And you'd be surprised to know that more than 200 houses in Singapore Township has filled with devotees that he has, the Sangha that he has created there. And every day morning they have Mangalarti, right? They created their own temple, within the Singapore Township. And they have Mangal Aarti. All the devotees, they chant their rounds from morning 5 o'clock. They finish their rounds, and then they go to their respective houses, and Infosys, they travel. Now it's all working from home. They have all festivals that a temple does. Boat festival, they also have a tank in which they make a boat, and they, they take Radha Krishna in that. And, Rath Yatra they did. And everything, and they also have opened a temple, ISKCON temple called ISKCON Rampalli. One person donated his land and house, constructed house for the temple, and the temple is also being managed by Prabhuji. And there is also a huge project Prabhuji has taken up called Nanda Gokulam. This project was actually incepted around 15-16 years back. Once again, I'll just stop the recording. Hare Krishna.